Hey guys, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Ashley.
And this is Undaunted Pursuit Podcast. Okay. Let me get a drink here.
Me as well.
All right. So, welcome back to Undaunted Pursuit Podcast. Glad you joined us here this week. And man, I tell you what, I'm just thinking here. We took a. You guys are going to be hearing this as
we are on a trip.
Yeah, actually, we are actually gone right now. we are not in the studio, but podcast magic has it that way. So
that's right.
Anyway. But yeah, it's quite an exciting trip. We've got some good news, and maybe we'll share that with you on the next episode after everything's all said and done. Talk about our experience there. And we're excited to go. But we're pre-recording this.
Yes.
Because I want to stay consistent with this.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And so anyway, we took a long break and in between recording episodes here, and I was checking on the thing. I'm glad this is not a video podcast right now, because I've been so long wanting to get this stinking sign that you got me up, and the epoxy will not dry, and so I was just checking that.
Still tacky?
It's still very tacky on one portion of the log face, and then once that's up, then I'll post pictures and videos and all that fun stuff. So be looking forward to that. So yeah, we're going to get back into Ecclesiastes Chapter 2. Before we do, I do want to give a huge shout out. Now, we've been here lately, the past couple episodes, we've been kind of promoting this it's a new company, and I don't think I've said that. It's a new company. So I would love to work with them on an Undaunted Pursuit coffee blend, but here's the thing.
Amazing.
Here's the thing. They need to get bigger. That starts with you guys. Those of you listening need to go over to Crossing Coffee Company and go on their website. It's in the show notes for the past 3 episodes, this episode and the past 2 episodes. Go visit. They've got their line of Judah Dark Roast, and I'm telling you, it is good. It is what's fueling this podcast, and it's phenomenal coffee, and I suggest you go over there and buy it, and then hopefully one day this partnership will lead to something greater. And I just feel that, you know how God talks to you, right? Yeah. That's what he's done with this. I don't know why, right? I don't know why I'm so ate up with this company, but
well, truth be told, we found him on a Ryan Trahan video.
Exactly.
And they made a donation as well as how, for whatever reason, of the 2,500 donations that day, or whatever it was, there was a lot.
This one stuck
out to us.
Yep. And so I got to looking at them. And it's not just a coffee company, right? It's Cross and Coffee Company. So they have devotionals on their website, and it is great. So outside of this podcast, of course, I'm happy that anybody listening is listening to this podcast, but you also do need to go over and check that out. And they will be on the podcast, hopefully, in the very near future. Well, either way, I think I've been calling them out the past couple of podcasts. So
maybe we can get them on here just to talk. And
yeah, because I'd like to see where this started and
That's right.
How they're sourcing their coffee, and I like what they're doing, and it helps
and that they've got a great product.
It helps that they have a great product. Now, do they need to grow so that they can have more variety of products?
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm enjoying what I'm getting so far, and we need more. So hopefully we'll be putting in an order here pretty soon to get some more, and just keep Crossing Coffee fueling this podcast, fueling our every mornings and our Bible study mornings every morning. So it's been great. I'd love to do that. We've our coffee connoisseurs.
We do love coffee.
But either way, so now Ecclesiastes Chapter 2 is what we're covering today. And here's the thing. I don't want to do... there's plenty of people that I listen to on a daily basis that do this whole recap, and it takes up most of the podcast.
Show, yeah.
And I hate the recap. If you need a recap, go back and listen.
Yep.
But we're going to start right off in chapter 2. But we are going to, I say all that to say, we are going to do a small little recap, right? Because there is aspects of what we're continuing from verse 1 or chapter 1 into chapter 2, right? Because I had talked about in last week's episode that he runs this test on his life and of living for all these pleasures and stuff, and this is kind of the where he sits down and talks about that. And I had to pull out another Bible for this one.
And another resource.
Another resource for the NASB, because I really liked it. Because I've got an NASB study Bible. And so it was talking about, before he comes to this realization, this truth that he was talking about in chapter 1, he experiments with life and exploring its possibilities, and he discovers that he was living proof of the futility that he longed to overcome. So let's see. He's gonna say in here, starting right off in verse 1 of chapter 2, that he says to himself, "Come now, I will test you with pleasure and gratification." So he's talking to himself. Go ahead.
Can I back us up just a bit more? Something I wanted to say on the last podcast about we had talked about this being. We believe that it's King Solomon, right? That this is speaking on. So I meant to say this on the last podcast, and it slipped my mind. But the English word is preacher, right? That's what that translates to.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Hebrew word root for the word is, oh boy, here we go. Quohethith, Qoheleth, which means to gather or assemble, which is why there's a debate as to whether this was truly written by King Solomon.
Gotcha.
Is because scholars believe that describes how they got the book of Ecclesiastes, is by gathering or assembling pieces. Okay?
Interesting.
And then the context is reflected in the English title Ecclesiastes, comes from Greek, not Hebrew. And it is from the word, all right guys, bear with me, these old language words, but Ecclesia, Ekklesa, which is the common New Testament word for the church.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So Ecclesiastes means one who speaks to the congregation, which is how you got preacher, right?
Right.
So, kind of wanted to touch on that. So, there's a couple different reasons why people do believe that this isn't King Solomon. We like to take the approach of looking at it through the fact that whether it was King Solomon or somebody who
dictating his life,
watched it, or did a documentary, if you will, in Ecclesiastes of his life. We like to look at it through that aspect or that lens, right?
Yeah, and even like if you were to look, I was like, well, I'm gonna open up a new translation and see what it says, and so I opened up my NASB, and I was looking at it, and it's following the same thing. It's like the notes in being that it's a study Bible in the bottom of the pages here, it says before Solomon came to accept, or in our experience, you know what I mean? It's referencing Solomon.
Yep.
So we're just going to roll with that.
Yeah.
And so, and vanity, right? Everything is vanity. That's what we saw in chapter 1. I did want to kind of back up a little bit and touch on that the Hebrew word for vanity is hebel. Everything is hebel.
Yes. Yeah.
And so just to kind of, if you wanted to look up a little bit more into the Hebrew word hebel, Hebel, I believe. And so...
Or maybe it's hebel.
Hebel. Either way.
We like the way that the Hebrew language uses some of that, how do you say it? Phlegm clearing. That phlegm clearing sound, so we try and add it in when we can.
Yep. So, but we're seeing here in chapter 2 that he's going to run a test, right? He's going to run a test on his on his joy, right? What is truly gonna bring me joy?
And the word there is me or I, right?
Right. This is what he is. But then here, what ends up happening, and the reason for writing this chapter too, is he finds himself left empty.
Yep, for sure.
Like, not everything that he did, he could do all of this stuff, like we mentioned last week, that he was able to do everything, and so he takes this test on full head on, right? And he concluded that this grand quest didn't really get him anywhere.
Exactly.
Living stupidly offered nothing, obviously, but neither could Solomon's wisdom. Here's the thing of it: even all the wisdom that he had couldn't outwit death and loss.
That's
right? At some point, all of this pleasure, all this grandiose living, still leads to death. Mm-hmm. Still, you're going to die. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're looking at. That's and how we should look at this. And so what do you got? I know that we've been using this book, Why Everything Matters, The Gospel in Ecclesiastes by Philip Ryken. That is our one of our sources.
It's one of our resources for sure.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this book, and like I said, it's not necessarily going to break down Ecclesiastes for you. It gives you a new way to look at things with Ecclesiastes. So in no means is it meant to take over the book of Ecclesiastes at all. It is just another tool or resource to get a bigger picture and scoop more snow for your snowman, right?
Yep. And so enjoy yourself and have a good time is what he was telling himself in verse 1. But behold, this too was Hebel, vanity, futility, and meaningless. All right, so what do you got?
So verse 2, he goes into laughter, right? And he goes into trying to please himself with laughter. And he finds, of course, that doesn't do it, right? What does it accomplish, he says. Then he explored with his mind how to gratify himself with wine. So then he moves into alcohol, right? He goes from comedy to alcohol. Yeah,
and then what do you see? A lot of times you see people that they may look like they're having a good time. Those that are really that are I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Enjoying the libations a little too much.
Indulge
right?
Yourself.
Indulging in this in drink, and they look like they're having a good time, but there's a reason he comes up with this conclusion that it's still all Hebel or vanity.
Right. More than that. I mean, Proverbs 20, chapter 20 says, this is from King Solomon. Solomon said, wine is a mocker, strong drink a brawler, and whoever is led astray by it is not wise.
Yeah, there used to be a time in our life where we thought we needed that alcohol to have a good time. That's not so much the case. Now, do we occasionally like to have a drink? I suppose so. But it's nothing that I crave. It's nothing that I crave anymore to have a good time. But yeah, these people on the outside that are drinking heavily and partying and everything like that, living it up, and it's pleasurable and it feels good in the moment, and it looks like they're having a good time, you don't stay that way.
Nope.
And you definitely don't feel that way the next morning. You feel like death warmed over.
Yep.
So yeah, the thing about all this pleasure and this way of living, it's all just a facade. Mm-hmm. It looks good, it feels good in the moment, but it is fleeting.
Yep.
He goes on, verse 4. I was figuring out where to stop, because I only wanted to paraphrase 4 through 10, I think, because Solomon goes into this, all this stuff that he did, right? He makes all these houses, he plants all these vineyards and gardens and orchards and pools of water. Well, here, verse 5 is one of your favorite verses right here, right? I made gardens, orchards for myself, and I planted them all kinds of fruit trees. That's something that you've always hoped for, right? And
well, it's something I've done in every place we've ever been.
Yeah, right.
Yes, it is. It's something that we have yet to reap the benefits just yet.
But here's the thing, right? God put us in a great place for that, because there's a fruit tree around every corner.
There is.
And we don't necessarily need our own orchard when we live in orchard. So but then I see where you're coming from, right? It is nice to have your own orchard, and hopefully one day maybe not our own, but something may come out of something of that sort, right? Without giving away too much. I don't know what God's plans are, but
I have no clue.
But anyway, Solomon he does this. He makes pools of water for himself and forests. He plants this huge forest, and I heard something on this not too long ago that like he planted a huge forest.
I was just getting ready to say that.
Are you?
Yeah. So in this, guys, in this book, one of these resources that we've been using, but in this book, it tells you, verses 4-6, it talks about him planting these gardens, these Eden-esque gardens, right? Mm-hmm. And these man-made Eden gardens, and these pools of water, and just these beautiful vineyards and houses, and an architect, and
it had to be a sight,
right? Exactly. So it says the preacher or the teacher was an architect, a builder, and a developer. Once again, we are reminded of King Solomon. Whether Ecclesiastes was written by him or by someone who presented his tragedy and cautionary tale, the details of this chapter come from his biography. Solomon spent more than a decade, 10 years, building a magnificent palace. He was a skilled in viniculture, in the production of wine, and he was equally involved in horticulture and silviculture.
Soil culture, yeah.
Silviculture, sorry, excuse me.
Interesting.
Which is planting of flowers and trees. Horticulture is planting of flowers and then...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So this lush vegetation was irrigated by reservoirs large enough to water an entire forest. So his ponds were big enough to water a huge forest.
That is insane.
Only a great man could even attempt such a grand project. The scope of his achievement is indicated by the fact that the preacher mentions everything in the plural. Houses, vineyards, gardens, and parks, trees, pools, all of it was for him. The Bible it was his private residence is what the Bible calls Solomon's. It was his private residence, right?
Yeah.
The palace of the preacher king was a paradise reigned in man-made Garden of Eden.
Wow. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this guy, right, for a moment. And he's taken on this to test himself in all these worldly pleasures and everything like that. This guy, Solomon, was he's more strategic than how did I hear it? More strategic than Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. Right?
He was more wise than just think of the wisest person we've known. And like there's many that tout him. I think whoever I was listening to said he was wiser or more knowledgeable than Stephen Hawking, right? Which people would tout. I have my different views on that guy, but
me as well.
But either way, so and he was richer than whoever, the richest person.
Whoever the richest person is right now.
Yeah, and we see that all throughout this thing there, because he's like he makes this beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It would have been a sight to see.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
And he's collected for himself silver and gold. He had people, he was so blessed in wisdom and everything. He had people coming from different nations and countries,
paying him taxes or giving him
boatloads.
Gifts. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Boatloads of gold and silver. And yet he comes to the conclusion that we're seeing throughout this whole theme of Ecclesiastes. He's like, I became great and more than all. That was verse 9.
Yep. more than I like verse 9, so I'm going to read that all in full. So I became great and excelled more than all who preceded me in Jerusalem. My wisdom also remained with me. It's so hard for me to read these and not see Solomon writing this.
Yeah.
I know it's not typical of his writing.
Right.
But all of this just tells me it is truly him that they are speaking of, whether it was him that wrote it or somebody writing a biography of him.
Yep. And, okay, so then kind of slowing down here as we get towards the end of this, like, it's almost like this is like the pre-Paul moment, right? And Paul's like, well, if I'm going to boast, I'm going to boast in this, but that's just, sure. This is Solomon boasting in what he has accomplished in this test of life that he's undergoing. And verse 10, he's like, whatever I looked at, I did not refuse. This is something he could do. Not that it was right, but that this is what he did, right? And we're learning from it. He's like, I did not withhold anything. If I wanted it, or I wanted to do it, I did it.
Yep.
That's what he's saying. And let's see here, because of all my, and was pleased because of all my labor, and this was my reward for all my labor. Okay? There's something in the New Testament that I'm thinking of, and I can't quote the verse, but it's just like, it's like taking that seat of honor, right? It's those religious leaders of the time that were, it was that store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. This is what this makes me think of, right? And Jesus is talking about this. Yeah. He was saying that those that take this high place of honor, like the religious leaders of the time, they have their reward already. They have their they're getting the recognition now, all the while putting aside the treasures that God has for you on the other side of eternity. And that's what this kind of made me think of, like, my heart was pleased because of my labor, and this was my reward for all my labor. Was your reward is earthly reward for your earthly pleasure that you're living for.
Yep.
Did that make sense? I know it was kind of a rambling.
So let me put it this way. I think what you're trying to get at is, because you're focused on what you want, right? Mm-hmm. You're only reaping this disappointment because you're not going to find... You're always going to... Something else is going to pop your eye that, I want that now.
Yeah, there's always going to be something else shining.
I want this now. So because of that, because your focus is solely on you, you're never going to have an end to that, right? Or you're never going to reach that fulfillment of, hey, I succeeded. I did it,
Right? Yeah. Which is what the conclusion he's coming to. Exactly. Is that he's like, I've done all this, and yet there was still something lacking.
For sure.
And verse 11, I considered all which my hands had done and labored to do, and behold, all was vanity. Yep. And chasing after the wind. Here's the thing. There was no profit there was nothing of lasting value under the sun.
Well, and I wanted to bring this up. So the word consider, the English word consider, right? Mm-hmm. The Hebrew word that this came from is panah. Panah.
I have heard that word before.
Which literally means to face or to look something directly in the eye.
Oh.
So I love taking that meaning and putting that into context, right? Mm-hmm. So when I turned to look directly in the eye, the wisdom, the madness, and the folly, for what will the man do who succeeds the king? Nothing, except what's already been done.
Exactly. That's right. So you kind of went into verse 12 there a little bit.
I did. I'm sorry.
Look in the man is for what will the man do succeeds. Okay. 13. Then I saw even secular wisdom I saw that wisdom is better than folly and self-indulgence, as light excels darkness. Okay, yeah. So
what those next couple verses to me are showing is he's finally coming to the realization that all of these pleasures without focus on God are worthless. They're meaningless, right? So you turn... He's realizing that that's not all there is, right?
Right.
And that's not all there is because he's longing for God. That's what he's longing for. That's the ultimate goal there. And so if we're able to find a lasting satisfaction in earthly pleasures, then we would never see our need for God.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, verse 14, like as I was reading through this, verse 14 is really where like the brunt of our discussion like kicks off, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about all this pleasure and stuff, this fleetingness, and the wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And yet, here's the bottom line, right? The both of them, in the end, one fate happens to them both. Like I said, they both die.
Yep.
At the beginning of this podcast, I said both of them, death will happen, and this is the realization that he's coming to, is that you know what does any of this matter? Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I indulging in all of this when I'm just gonna die?
Yeah. Well, in verse 16, he says, "For there is no more lasting remembrance of the wise man than of the fool, since in the days to come all will be long forgotten. And how does the wise man die? Even as the fool does."
Yes. So it doesn't matter. You are still he dies as the fool, right?
Yeah.
We're all gonna die, maybe not in the same way, but we're all gonna face this sting of death, right? Mm-hmm. No matter foolish, wise, righteous, unrighteous, we've all got something going for us, and that's death.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes to this in 17. So I hated life.
Yeah.
For the work which had been done under the sun caused me only great sorrow, because all this futility and chasing after the wind. So he's like, oh my goodness, if this is all meaningless, if I'm just gonna die, and and I'm kind of, all that I've gained, all that I,
it's just like be left to the next person.
Yeah.
And are they going to be a fool, or are they going to be wise?
Yeah. What are they going to do with
matter?
that? All of this stuff you see in the studio, that you see around our house, all of it will eventually go to somebody else.
That's right.
And you are going to eventually be forgotten.
Yep.
You will be forgotten. No matter how much you think, give it a few generations, and you probably will not ever be remembered. So then he sits down and he's thinking, why? What am I doing all this for? Well, and here's the thing, right? And if you're lucky, you may be remembered for a few generations, but even 5 generations past, I can't remember 5 generations of my own family. You know what I mean? But all of this was talking about, if there's a man who's labored with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet this is verse 21, yet gives his legacy to one who has not labored for it, this too is vanity. So got me to thinking about Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22, right? A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of a sinner is stored up for the hands of the righteous. Okay? I don't really know how to break down the one, because what we're talking about in Ecclesiastes made me think of this first one, about leaving an inheritance to his children's children. Now, that is normally used in a money context, right? Is to storing up, like I should have a whole bunch of stored up wealth for my kids and their kids, like, but that's not what I think it means.
It's not.
Right? I think that, like I brought up earlier, that it's storing up treasures in heaven, right? It's passing on this legacy of Jesus throughout your family, breaking these generational curses on families that haven't normally had Jesus in them, and leaving that legacy, having your kids, raising your kids up in the way they should go so that they shall not depart from it, and having them carry that on, carry Jesus to their children's children.
Yep.
Exactly. That is the inheritance, because everything else is fleeting. Everything else is vanity. Everything else is going to someone else. But the legacy that you leave with Jesus in it goes on forever.
Yep. Great-grandpa Aaron, if we ever get to that, which I hope we do, but great-grandpa Aaron's going to be forgotten. Jesus will never be forgotten.
Exactly.
2,000 years, and he has never once been forgotten.
Boy, I pray he comes back before then.
Me too.
But you know what? So that we can continue going on, that we don't have to worry about that, right? But we have to think that way, right?
Yeah.
We have to carry on this legacy, this Jesus legacy in our families.
Yeah.
Because everything else, like as we're seeing here, this is why we are learning from, this is why Ecclesiastes is so rich and good, because we're learning. We have the opportunity to learn from a guy who tried everything and not make the same mistakes he did.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm going to insert this here. So, it states in this Why Everything Matters book again, it states, think of it like this. Everything that Solomon pursued, everything he was looking for earthly, Jesus was tempted by, but he resisted it.
Exactly. I was thinking that as I was saying.
This makes him the savior that every dissatisfied sinner needs. The man that Johnny Cash was looking for in The Wanderer. The one good man, a spirit who would not bend or break, who could sit at his Father's right hand.
You know what? That
let's bring Johnny Cash in. Right?
Exactly, right? We did that in the last episode. But that was, funny thing is that you would read that, because I was thinking that same exact thing. Yeah. I was like, okay, at what point do I enter? Of course, Jesus is always relevant, but I was trying to think about how I worked that into what I was saying, because I knew it was pertinent, because you have Solomon and what he was doing, and then
tempted with everything earthly,
tempted with everything, and indulged in everything earthly. Exactly. And then you have the polar opposite,
with Jesus, who was in the wilderness for 40 days, tempted by everything Solomon was.
Power, wealth,
yes,
food,
drink, everything,
all of it.
Yep. That's funny.
I was thinking that, but I'm glad you brought that up. Oh.
Where are you going?
Verse 23.
Okay, you go first, because I was going 25.
Okay, verse 23. For all his days his work is painful and sorrowful. Even at night his mind does not rest. This too is vanity. Right? Mm-hmm. Too many times, right? We've had this discussion throughout the marriage podcast, and we see too many people, even nowadays, whatever. And we just talked to a good friend of ours. He even came to this realization, like, oh my goodness, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I'm failing as a husband? I'm failing as a provider. I'm failing as a father. You know what I mean? And you get that way. You see these guys, it's like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Or, and when we have a good father that modeled at least a good day of rest for us, because he knows our body needs it. But here's the thing. When you pursue these pleasures, these worldly pleasures, and all you can live for is the money or the power or the fame or whatever you're striving towards that is outside of God, then your mind does not rest.
No.
Right? It's always going. That's why you can't sleep at night. That's why not you, but because I'm not speaking. I'm looking at you, but I'm not speaking to you. But that I'm kind of speaking to the listeners that's why you can't sleep at night, is because you're too ate up.
That's why you can't stop and let your brain just set. Like be still, right? Be still and be quiet.
Yeah.
A lot of us nowadays have trouble with our minds just stopping in quiet, right? Mm-hmm. The only time we truly get, most of the time, is when we sleep.
Yeah.
So that's the only time God has our undivided attention and undistracted attention anymore. Yeah.
That's why I think it's good that we make it a regular practice, especially in the summertime like this, to take family time out to go to the river, right? Even if I kick myself for not camping so much this year, but at least we've taken time out of our busy week to just recenter on God, recenter on family, right? And not be chasing after the wind on something that's going to be fleeting, right? I've always said, right, that it's like, oh, okay, I'll take a day off, right? I'll make more money tomorrow. This is going to cost me a lot. Well, it's all right. I'll make some more tomorrow. I've always had that outlook on life, right?
Yep.
That, God's got this. You don't have to labor in vain, because or I guess maybe that was the wrong wording for it, but you don't really have to lose sleep at night worrying about where your food is coming from, where your house is. You don't
look at the wildflowers, aren't they?
Look at the wildflowers, exactly. They not toil and spin, and yet God, clothes them. You know how that verse goes, right? God's got this.
The wildflowers don't toil and spin.
No, right, don't toil and spin. You know what I'm saying.
Are they not clothed with beauty?
Thank you. I've really messed that one up. Forgive me, Lord. Well, I got on a kick, actually.
I wouldn't mind seeing some flowers toil and spin.
Good night.
That'd be frightening to see, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
And that's where he goes in verse 24, right? There's nothing better for a man than to eat and drink and assure himself that there is good in his labor. Yes, God wants you to work. He designed us to work, right? But even this I have seen is from the hand of God. Your work is, what you do is all to the glory of God, right? And I am guilty of forgetting that from time to time, right? I am a reflection of God no matter where I'm at, reflection of Jesus no matter where I'm at, and he has me in the positions he's got me in this time and season that he's in. There's a little teaser for the next week, but yeah, okay, so
verse 25 says, "For who can eat and who can have enjoyment without him?" Referencing God, right? Who can eat? Who can have any enjoyment without God, right?
Exactly.
So I have something for you on that one. This principle applies to our Christian life. Pleasure is only safe for us when God is there. This never happens when we take pleasure for ourselves or we make it our main passion in life. Our passions and our enjoyment only come when God is right beside us as our safety.
Yeah. That's what it is. You trust in Jesus. Trust in the work he did on the cross. And he's up there. He's watching over us day in, day out. There's no reason. He did all the work so we don't have to worry. And keep in mind, this is where chapter 2 ends, is that for the person who pleases God, God gives you in return wisdom, knowledge, and joy. Right? But on the other hand, right, to the sinner, God gives the work of gathering and collecting so that he may give to the one who pleases God. This too is vanity and chasing after the wind. God loves you. Whether you are obedient or disobedient, he still loves you. He still wants to be with you. And that's his goal. He still gives that. He's still providing for you, whether you believe in him or not. He wakes you up every morning. That's the thing, is whether you're an atheist or a Jesus follower, he's still providing you breath, and that is still his goodness and his glory and his patience to allow you to wake up in the morning.
That's right. So I love this part here, and I wanted to make sure I added this in, but it says, there is pleasure in everything that Solomon mentioned at the beginning of chapter 2, right? There's pleasure in every one of those things, as long as we are in rewarding work that is done for the glory of God. In feasting at a banquet table with thanksgiving to God, in the silver and gold that is invested in the kingdom of God, with the guarantee of an eternal return, there is pleasure in music that delights the ear and moves our emotions to worship God. Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? In simple terms, utilize the stuff, right? We've got a lot of stuff, don't we?
Yes, we do.
I don't idolize any of it. I could let go of any of it, though I don't want to, because God has blessed us with some of this stuff, with all of this stuff, not just some of it, but with all of it. And But just if you look at it through the lens of God provided this for me, I'm going to use it to, he wants you to. He wouldn't have given it to you if he didn't want you to enjoy it. But he doesn't want you to idolize it. Is that correct? Is that a good way of kind of rounding this whole thing out? It's like, don't be idolizing the good gifts of God. Because you don't, it's like you see a lot of religions worshiping the creation rather than the creator.
Yeah.
And so, let's just all come together and give thanks to the guy who is the man who is given all of this, the life and all the pleasures in it, and be careful with that, because what he meant for what is supposed to bless us, the enemy will turn around and try and use it for bad
against us.
Use it against us, and we see that with everything that Solomon listed in chapter 2.
For sure.
And so, well, that's it. That's chapter 2, and these are looking like they are shorter episodes, but I'm sure people will appreciate that. But I am thoroughly enjoying doing this with you. I love doing
Ecclesiastes too.
Well, not just Ecclesiastes, the podcast and everything with my wife is great. I love it.
I love doing it with you.
And I just want to keep it going. I look forward to doing it, and not that there's anything wrong. I wanted to put this out here that Marshall was not kicked off, right?
No.
He's trying to sell his house.
He's in his stage of life right now. He's got a new baby. He got a new job. They're getting ready to move. He is just full right now.
Yeah, Marshall and I didn't have a falling out. We still talk every week. And
he is just full.
He is busy. And I can't, when you travel 2 hours one way to work a day, that's 4 hours of travel time a day. I can't in good mind ask him to take some more time away from his family for this. But even when he does come back, we'll study something completely different, because I enjoy doing this with my beautiful wife.
No.
So we will continue doing this together, because you have gotten really good at it.
Thank you.
And so
I enjoy doing these podcasts.
I love it. And I hope people keep listening. I hope they love it. That being said, we're going to end this week's episode of Undaunted Pursuit podcast, and I hope you guys love it too. If you do love it, give us a good rating, give us a good review, subscribe, like, whatever you got to do to get this podcast out there to others. Share it with other people. Share it with your friends. Share it with your coworkers. And, because it's all about keeping your eyes focused on Jesus. It's not about me. It's not about my wife. It's not about any of us. It's about Jesus. It's about getting his word out there to everybody, as many people. Because here's the thing. I've been praying this, that, I would love to see Jesus come back. But the only way that's going to happen is if we get the word out to everybody. So everybody's got to hear the good news of Jesus. And so that's what we're doing here. So I appreciate you guys listening. Follow us, like us, and subscribe, whatever you got to do on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube. Guys, go subscribe to our channel. There's more than just podcast episodes out there. There's shorts, there's sermons that God's blessed me with be able to do. Go check all that out. I would love for you guys to check that out. I'd love to hear from you guys. You can message us on any of the social medias or undauntedpursuit@gmail.com. And as always, keep an eye out in the show notes for any links, Crossing Coffee, musicians, whatever music we use. If we happen to be using an artist that we're highlighting for the week, I've been using some generic music here lately, but yeah, anyway, all of that will be in the show notes. And so next week we'll get into chapter 3, and we will also be discussing our time away that we are actually away on as we speak right now.
So be praying, because it's amazing.
Yeah, and we will discuss that next week. So guys, hey, thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next week. See you guys.